Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into some really incredible natural phenomena. We've pulled together some articles, research, notes, all sorts of things. Our goal really is to uncover some fascinating facts, maybe some surprising insights about two distinct parts of nature, but they're beautifully connected, actually. Both have this kind of theme of glow, and they have a pretty profound impact on landscapes and, on lives too.
Yeah, absolutely. And our two main subjects for this deep dive are Alpenglow,
Yeah.
that amazing atmospheric thing that paints mountains these incredible colors, and Fireweed, which is just this incredibly resilient plant, super versatile, with a really rich history and just tons of uses.
All right, let's unpack these natural wonders then. That sounds fascinating. Okay, so Alpenglow. When I think of just like stunning natural beauty, that often comes to mind. That amazing reddish pink glow. You see it on mountaintops, usually around sunrise or sunset. It's just breathtaking. But what's actually going on there? Is it simply the sun hitting the peaks, or is there more to it?
That's a really good question because what a lot of people think is alpenglow often isn't, technically speaking. Not by the strictest definition, anyway. Alpenglow, it comes from the German Alpenglow, meaning alpenglow or enrosadire in Italian. It's actually a specific optical phenomenon. It looks like this soft, sort of horizontal reddish glow, usually near the horizon on the peaks. And critically, it happens when the sun's disk is just below the horizon, opposite where the sun actually is. And there's a really key distinction here between the strict and maybe looser uses of the term. Strict alpenglow, the real deal, refers to indirect sunlight. So the light isn't hitting the mountain directly from the sun. Instead, it's reflected or maybe diffused by tiny things in the lower atmosphere, like moisture, little ice crystals, dust particles, that kind of thing. And this happens after sunset or before sunrise. That's what creates those really soft, almost ghostly shadows and that characteristic reddish color. Crucially, no direct sun involved. Now, what people often call alpenglow, informally, is just any kind of rosy or reddish light from the rising or setting sun directly hitting the mountain peaks.
If you see sharp, clearly defined shadows, that's direct sunlight. That's not the true strict alpenglow we're talking about. The actual alpenglow is much more subtle and quite fleeting.
Huh. Okay, so if I'm seeing really sharp shadows on a mountain at sunrise, that's not the strict alpenglow. That's really interesting because I've definitely called that alpenglow before. It feels a bit like finding out, that not all whales are fish or something like that. A common misconception.
Exactly. It's a common mix-up.
Yeah.
The strict definition points to that very special indirect light. It's quite a different visual experience when you know what to look for.
Okay, that indirect versus direct light distinction is, yeah, that's crucial. So how does the atmosphere actually do that? How does it paint the peaks with those amazing colors? What's the science behind it creating that really low color temperature?
Right, it's all about how sunlight interacts with our atmosphere. When the sun is low on the horizon, like at dawn or dusk, the light has to travel through way more atmosphere than it does at, say, midday. And as the light takes this longer path, tiny particles in the air, we're talking dust, moisture, aerosols, all that stuff, they act like a natural filter. What happens is the shorter wavelengths of light, the blues and violets, they get scattered away from our line of sight. It's called backscattering. So that allows more of the longer, warmer wavelengths, the oranges and reds, to pass straight through to our eyes. And this whole process results in a much lower color temperature for the light that reaches us. It really is like switching from a cool, bright fluorescent bulb to a warm, soft, incandescent one. Gives everything that golden, reddish glow. And here's a neat part. Even when the sun's actual disk is below the horizon, its light can still reach those high mountain peaks. That's because light actually bends slightly as it passes through the atmosphere. It can sort of curve over the horizon and light up those high points.
That bending light, wow. The atmosphere itself is like a giant lens or prism then. Okay, so if we want to actually catch this magic, where should we be looking? What are the best conditions?
Well, you're definitely most likely to see this strict alpenglow in mountainous areas. And it's particularly striking on snow-covered peaks. The snow acts like a great reflector, really enhances it. Interestingly, the effect can actually be amplified if the atmosphere is a bit dirty, more polluted, maybe dust or smoke. For example, out in Wyoming, a really intense alpenglow might even be a sign there's a wildfire nearby, putting extra particles into the air. Even having more clouds between you, the observer, and the sun can sometimes make the glow seem more intense. Generally, the best times to look are often from about mid-August through November, or during the winter months, say November to April. The air tends to be cooler and clearer then, which usually leads to more vibrant sunsets, and so, more pronounced alpenglow. You might notice the mountains look more orangey in late summer or fall, and then take on more of a pinkish hue in winter. A classic place, really famous for it, is the Dolomites in northern Italy. They have this unique dolomite stone. It's a white, hard limestone, and it absorbs sunlight exceptionally well. Creates just stunning alpenglow. But remember, true alpenglow is pretty brief. It usually only lasts for maybe 5 to 10 minutes during twilight before it just fades away.
Right, 5 or 10 minutes. That's it. It
Okay.
makes me think of the Belt of Venus, too. You know, that pinkish band you sometimes see opposite the sun after sunset, even without mountains, caused by similar scattered light, I guess.
Exactly. Very similar physics at play there. It
Yeah.
shows how these atmospheric optics are all interconnected.
Okay, so from that fleeting, sort of ethereal glow on mountain peaks, let's switch gears a bit. Let's talk about fireweed, another natural wonder that has a kind of glow, but in a very different way, more like a glow of life, of resilience.
That's a perfect way to describe it. Yeah, fireweed. Botanically, it's Trimanerian angustifolium. You might also see it listed under the older name, Epilobium angustifolium. And the common names vary too. It's famously fireweed here in North America. But over in Britain and Ireland, they usually call it Rose Bay willow herb. And it picked up this really poignant nickname during World War II in London, bombweed, because it just sprang up everywhere in the bomb craters after the Blitz. A real symbol of nature's resilience, wasn't it? Visually, it's quite striking. It's a perennial herbaceous plant. Grows pretty tall, actually, anywhere from half a meter up to maybe 2 meters. Often has reddish stems, these narrow leaves arranged in a spiral, and then that really distinctive, gracefully tapered spike of flowers at the top, just covered in these vibrant magenta to pink blossoms, usually about 2 or 3 centimeters across. It's so iconic, especially up north, that it's the floral emblem of the Yukon. It's even on their flag.
Wow, on the flag. And that name, fireweed, it's just so evocative, isn't it? Makes you think immediately of something powerful, something that endures. Is that name tied directly to its role in the ecosystem, like after actual fires?
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly where the name comes from. Fireweed is a classic example of what ecologists call a pioneer species.
Oh.
It has this incredible knack for rapidly colonizing open, disturbed ground, especially areas cleared by forest fires. So yeah, it's often one of the very first plants you see poking up through the ashes, almost literally rising from the fire. And its strategy is, well, pretty impressive. Seed production is just enormous. Each plant can produce something like 300 to 400 tiny brown seeds per capsule. And a single plant might produce up to 80,000 seeds in total. These seeds are minuscule and have these silky hairs attached.
Ah, like dandelion seeds for wind travel.
Exactly like that. Built for wind dispersal, they can travel for miles and miles. And once a few plants get established, it doesn't stop there. It also spreads really effectively underground through its roots, its rhizomes, forming these large, dense patches. Typically, fireweed hits its peak colonization maybe 5 years or so after a disturbance. Then, as larger trees and shrubs start growing back, it begins to get shaded out. But its seeds just wait patiently in the soil, sometimes for decades, ready for the next fire or other disturbance to clear the ground and give them the exposed mineral soil they love to germinate in.
That's not just resilience, that's like a long-term strategic plan. It literally waits for its opening. Amazing.
So, okay, rebuilds landscapes. But I hear it's also incredibly useful for humans, too, like in a whole bunch of ways. Oh, unbelievably useful. It's one of those plants that's like a whole toolkit in one. Let's start with food. The young shoots and leaves. You can eat them raw or cook them up like asparagus. The young flowers can be made into jelly. And the stems of older plants have this sweet, nutritious pith inside that you can extract. Even the roots can be roasted and eaten, though they're apparently less bitter if you collect them before the plant flowers. But it goes way beyond just food. The mature leaves, when dried, make a really popular caffeine-free tea. In Russia, it's known as Ivan chai or Kaporsky tea.
Yeah.
It's highly prized, not just for taste, but it's apparently quite rich in minerals, iron, copper, potassium, calcium. And then there's the medicinal side. Traditional European folk medicine used it for all sorts of things. Stomach issues, liver and prostate problems, even BPH, kidney and urinary tract ailments, migraines, insomnia, you name it. Externally, it was used as an anti-inflammatory and antiseptic for minor burns, rashes, ulcers, wounds, sore throats, things like that. And North American indigenous peoples had their own uses too, for boils, infections, bruises, even supposedly to help with breast milk production. Now, it's worth noting, while the traditional uses are really extensive, modern science rates the evidence for some things, like treating fevers or tumors, as insufficient. And like with many herbs, pregnant or breastfeeding individuals should probably check with a professional first.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just a pretty face in the field. It's practically a pharmacy and a pantry rolled into one. You could almost survive on this stuff in the wild, couldn't you?
It certainly seems like it offers a lot, and we're not even done. Beekeepers love it. Fireweed produces this highly valued honey, often called fireweed honey. It's described as being white and having a spicy flavor. It's mainly produced in cooler climates, think the Pacific Northwest, Scandinavia, and definitely Alaska. A real delicacy, and for practical uses. The tough fibers in the stem were historically used to weave things like fishing nets. Fresh leaves were apparently used to preserve bowstrings somehow. The flower is used for waterproofing mittens and rawhide. The inner pith can be dried and rubbed on your skin to protect against the cold. And get this, those fluffy seeds. They can even be used as tinder for starting fires or as insulation. All this versatility comes down to its natural chemistry, of course. Scientists have found something like 250 different natural compounds, or metabolites, in fireweed. It's particularly rich in polyphenols, things like flavonoids, phenolic acids. There's one compound, N-B, that seems to be a key player in its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. It's like a tiny chemical factory. Though the exact amounts of these compounds can vary quite a bit, depending on where it grows, which part of the plant you test, and when it's harvested. Usually the highest polyphenol levels are found when it's in full bloom.
That's just incredible. One plant, so many roles. Foundational, really. And that brings us perfectly to how these two things, the atmospheric poetry of Alpenglow and the down-to-earth resilience of fireweed, really come together, especially in a place like Alaska.
They really do. Both Alpenglow and fireweed are just deeply iconic symbols in Alaska. It's more than just, nice scenery for them. It's part of the state's identity, to the point where the Alaska Department of Motor Vehicles actually issued a new license plate design featuring Denali, the mountain, bathed in Alpenglow with a big stand of fireweed right there in the foreground. It's a beautiful image and really shows how strongly Alaskans connect with both of these natural elements.
I love that. A license plate. And there's that great little local saying from Valdez, Alaska, right? Summer is over when the bloom gets to the top of the fireweed stalk. It just perfectly captures how people there use the plant as like a living calendar, a seasonal marker.
It's a very accurate saying, too. The flowers bloom from the bottom of the stalk upwards, and the plant just grows with such wild abandon up there. You see it everywhere, from the coastal rainforest right up into the alpine tundra, roadsides, open meadows, just painted magenta in the summer. It's truly prolific across Alaska.
And if thinking about those wind-blown seeds again, I remember reading this charming little anecdote in one of our sources about someone finding fireweed seeds that had drifted around inside their truck for ages and just imagining them eventually finding a little crack somewhere and springing to life years later in some totally unexpected place. It's such a perfect picture of that inherent resilience, isn't it? That ability to bring life wherever it lands. Almost a metaphor for life finding a way. So what a journey today. We've gone from the really ethereal, fleeting beauty of Alpenglow, understanding that delicate dance of light and atmosphere painting mountain peaks, all the way to the incredible, enduring resilience and just amazing utility of fireweed, a plant that literally thrives when things get tough.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? This whole deep dive kind of raises the question, what other hidden stories, what other deep connections are sitting right there in the natural things we see every day? Things we might be completely overlooking.
Exactly. What other hidden glows or maybe resilient wonders might be all around you right now, just waiting for you to pause, take a closer look, and maybe understand their deeper meaning? How does simply looking a bit closer at the natural world actually change your perspective on things? Something to think about.